Welcome back. We did it! In the first two parts, we built our Spring Boot web application completely from scratch. And now that it's up and running, it is time for the really fun part, building out a professional-grade, scalable, automated test suite to make sure this thing is absolutely rock solid.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to kick things off by setting up our test project and getting all the right dependencies into our POM file. Then, we'll design an architecture that's built to scale. The most important part, though, will be wiring up Cucumber and Spring. And then finally, we'll get a little sneak peek at what's next, getting our framework ready for a real CI/CD pipeline.
All right, our Spring Boot application is officially live. So now it's time to switch gears, put on our SDET hats, and really dive into the automation side of things. We're moving away from writing the product code itself, and instead, we're focusing on building that robust framework that gives us the confidence to ship our app to production, knowing it's reliable and bug-free.
And this diagram, it just perfectly illustrates our journey so far. We've successfully wrapped up Phase 1, we built the application. Now we're kicking off Phase 2, where we're going to build a completely separate, really powerful Cucumber test project that's designed to validate our APIs from the outside in, just like a real user would.
Okay, so every great software project starts with a solid foundation, right? Well, for any Maven project, that foundation is the pom.xml file. This is where we define all the tools and libraries our test framework is going to need to do its job. You can really just think of it as our toolkit.
These 6 dependencies you see here, they're basically the heart and soul of our entire test framework. We've got Cucumber Java and JUnit for actually running our tests. RestAssured is fantastic for making clean and super readable API calls. Jackson is going to handle all of our JSON data. And of course, Lombok is there to keep our code nice and tidy. Every single one has a crucial role to play.
But listen, the real star of the show here, the one you really need to pay attention to, is the Cucumber-Spring dependency. This little guy is the magic glue that connects our two worlds. It's like a universal translator that lets our Cucumber tests speak the language of Spring. I'm telling you, without this, dependency injection with @autowired just fails. It won't work, and our whole framework would be dead in the water.
Now, before we write a single line of test logic, we need a blueprint. Having a solid, well-thought-out project structure is completely non-negotiable. Seriously. It's what's going to stop our test code from becoming a huge, messy, unscalable tangle later on as the project gets bigger.
And here is our blueprint in action. We're creating these dedicated packages for everything. Our API clients, our configuration files, our test runners, our step definitions. This clean separation of concerns makes the whole project incredibly easy to navigate and maintain. Trust me, as we add more and more tests, this structure is going to let us scale gracefully without creating a big mess.
And that's really the key takeaway here, clear separation of concerns. All our API logic lives in one spot, our test data in another, and our test orchestration in a third. This is the secret sauce for building a maintainable, collaborative test framework that's actually going to stand the test of time.
Okay, our architecture is in place, so now we are ready for the most critical step of this entire process, connecting Cucumber and Spring. We're about to teach our independent Cucumber tests how to find and tap into the power of our Spring application. Getting this part right is absolutely essential.
You know, this is probably the single most common failure point for engineers who are new to this stack. By default, Cucumber has absolutely no idea that Spring even exists. They're like two ships passing in the night. So if we don't explicitly connect them, none of our awesome Spring features, especially dependency injection, are going to work in our tests. And the solution is? Well, it's surprisingly simple. All thanks to this one small but incredibly powerful configuration file, testconfig.java. With just 2 little annotations, @Cucumber context configuration and @Spring Boot test, we build that bridge that connects our two frameworks. That's literally it. This comparison just shows you exactly why that one config file is so vital. I mean, look on the left. Without it, the Spring context never loads, and anytime you try to use @autowired in your step definitions, you're going to get an error. But on the right, with our configuration, we boot the entire Spring context, making its full power available across our whole test suite. It's a night and day difference. So now that Cucumber can talk to Spring, we have to complete the connection. We need to tell Spring where it can find all of our custom test components, our API clients, our utility classes, so that it can manage them and make them available for us to inject wherever we need them. And we do this with one simple annotation, @componentScan. We just add this to our main test configuration, and we point it right to the base package of our entire test project. Simple as that.
And this one annotation does so much heavy lifting for us. It tells Spring, hey, scan our entire test project, find any class that's marked as a component, and just automatically register it as a managed bean. This means our API clients, our helper classes, everything are ready to be injected anywhere we need them, with zero manual wiring. It's amazing.
So we've built a functional test framework. That's awesome, but a truly professional framework needs to be able to run anywhere, and that's where CI/CD comes into play. So our next step is to make our framework flexible enough to handle all the different environments, from our local machines all the way up to our production servers.
In our next explainer, we're going to dive headfirst into dynamic environment handling. You're going to learn how to run the exact same test suite against your local machine, a QA environment, or even production just by changing a single setting. No code changes required. It is an absolute game changer for any serious test automation effort. For the full code snippets and the complete step-by-step guide, be sure to check the Medium article link in the video description below.